Welcome to The Life of Hair. My name is James Atkinson. Thank you for joining me in this week's episode. Now, this week's episode is a continuation of last week's episode, but before I tell you about that, let me give you a quick update that I have got a brand new Life of Hair channel here on YouTube. It's called The Life of Hair Review. It is simply and purely about reviewing hair products, bleaches, tints, you name it. We will be reviewing it on there, but not just from the superficial, quick and dirty reviews on hair products, but also looking into the chemicals and the additives in products like bonders. Also, what chemicals do what, because do you necessarily know which chemical does what inside this product? I think it's about time that we started getting a deeper knowledge, a deeper understanding of these things as hairdressers, because our clients are becoming so clever. They are doing more research than a lot of hairdressers I know. So it is really, really important that we make the effort now to truly understand what we are using and how it works, and not just the myths, but the actual facts behind how our hair is conditioned, shampooed, etc, etc. So if you haven't subscribed, head down to the description in this video. There's a link to that channel. Subscribe. Got some great content coming your way, and I'm going to give you all the insights and information on all the hair products I've ever used, and new products to me as well. And not only that, but I will also be giving you that deeper insight into how those products work. So I hope to see you over there very, very soon. Quickly tell you about today's video. Today's video is, as I said, a continuation from the theoretical look at the consultation that I did last week. Lots and lots of people got in touch with me, DMs, comments down below. Wonderful to hear from so many people saying that that was a really useful video. And actually a few people said about face shapes, and I've had quite a few request videos about face shapes. So you're in luck. If that was you, today is your lucky day, because I'm making a video about face shapes. So this is going to be more about cutting consultations and that type of scenario where we're looking at face shapes. But obviously colour does affect the face shape to a degree. Not quite as high impact as a haircut has, but we're going to focus mainly on what has the strongest impact. We're also going to do a video on skin tones and colour choices, as well as obviously the mentioned videos, the strand test, the porosity test, and the incompatibility test that I mentioned. These videos are all coming very, very soon. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because those videos are coming to this channel very, very soon. And don't forget, if you enjoyed today's video, hit that thumbs up button, because it does the channel the world of good. Right, I shall see you again in the next episode. Enjoy this one and have a wonderful week. So we're going to start with the easiest face shape, and that is oval. Now, in an ideal world, we would make everybody's face shape look oval and everybody's face would be symmetrical. This is not an ideal world. So there's quite a few different face shapes that we can encounter on our journey. Now we're going to talk about kind of 7 different face shapes today. Usually people talk about 6, but I've got one little spanner in the works for everybody in terms of some of the face shapes that we can encounter. So anyway, as we said, oval is what we're aiming to achieve. When we're putting haircuts on face shapes, we're trying to achieve oval. Now, I'm not going to tell you what haircut to put on any of these. I'm going to give you some examples of techniques that you can use to achieve these perfect face shapes. So there's nothing we need to do to this oval face shape, because it is what it is. It's oval. We can put any cut on it, a bob, you name it, it works perfectly. So we're going to skip past oval nice and quickly. Diamond face shapes, take 2. So when we talk about diamond face shapes, it's wider at the cheeks, at the cheekbones here, and comes and tapers down a little bit. So we want to, obviously, we're aiming for that oval kind of shape. One of the haircuts that we can best use for this is a haircut that kind of tapers onto the face to slim it down a little bit. So if we just imagine that we used a shape that just cuts in just a wee bit there on the old cheekbones, slimming down that face shape. There's not a huge amount that we can do for the length on the chin, but what we can do is to create an illusion of width, is like fill out. So like whether it be, you know, flicky this way, or if it was like curly, we can fill out this neck area to create a little bit more width on the shape, and that would then help to kind of reduce the length of the chin generally, and it would then seem like it was a little bit shorter. And so what we would then achieve is a fantastic oval face shape, or we would be pushing it towards an oval face shape. And we can see there how we've changed the parameters of that face shape. We still have the length obviously towards the chin area, but by filling out, you know, with some hair through this area, we can start to reduce the length of the chin, or the appearance of the length of the chin. And you can really see there where I've put that oval diagram over the top, it's cut in some of that width, so we're starting to push the face shape towards oval. Super simple. So that is a really good technique, or an ideas for kind of using different haircuts to create different looks for different clients. Obviously sometimes people will have very long hair, and then if they've got lots of long hair, they've already got a fill in here, so it might be a case of saying to them, right, well, we need to do something to kind of, you know, bring down some of the hair onto your face, or you're going to blow dry it onto your face, and that's going to cut into this diamond shape that you've got. Now, little caveat is that obviously with all of these things, the face shape isn't the determining factor whether if someone's beautiful or not. You know, there's many factors to that. So this isn't about beauty. This is about kind of balancing face shapes. Lots of clients will say to you, well, what suits my face? And so you'll say to them, well, you know, this is your face shape, and this is how I can best help you. You know, it's not going to miraculously make them better looking, you know, feature wise, because we're only doing the perimeter. Anyway, so just so we can maybe don't say that to your client, maybe just keep that between me and you. Right, what have we got here? Round. Everyone thinks they've got round everyone thinks they've got a round face shape, or loads of clients think they've got a round face shape. It's the most common thing for people to come in and say, oh, my face shape's round. Or if you ask them what shape do you think their face is, they say round. It's very unlikely that everyone's got a round face shape, of course. But in the instance of people's kind of, you know, ideology, then yes, they do think they have a round face shape, unfortunately. Anyway, so what are we going to do with a round face shape? Well, we're going to do a similar thing that we did previously. So let's use a different example. We could use that kind of feathering technique where we kind of brought hair onto the face, and that would then slim down this shape, and we would start to push it straight into an oval, as you can see there. So the alternative to that is to create a square line down the face, so like a bob shape or something, and that would obviously cut off some of the face shape, just like so. There's not actually any haircut you can't really put on a round head. The only thing I would obviously suggest is if you're going to put lots of volume into the hair, you make that volume wide. It's going to drag the face shape out sideways. So you want height from the roots that way, but you don't want so much width, because that will help you in terms of slimming down the face shape. So really, really bear that in mind. You really want the hair to be high and not so wide if it's a round face shape, if we're talking about volume. But a box bob looks good because it chops off some of the width on the face, and that's a good idea. And obviously there's hair to fill in through the back here on a box bob, so that will look great on a client with a rounder face because it will really narrow down their cheeks. A really good idea on also rounder face shapes is to avoid curved fringes. Because you're just exaggerating what's already there. So don't put a curved fringe in. You can put a square fringe in, statement-y kind of square fringe into someone's round face shape, which will look absolutely fine. You know, if it's like a proper kind of Cleopatra box bob shape, then perfect, go for it, you know. That will work a treat too. So there are some things that you can kind of think about and chew on a little bit. And yeah, really good face shape to work with, to be honest, because you've only got to just narrow it down a little bit. End of story, you know. Whereas lots of clients think this is a really negative face shape to have. It's round, you know, because they associate it with fat or whatever. Ridiculous notions that the clients can have preconceived ideas of their face shapes. So round, they are some of the hot tips that I've got for round. Let's take a little look at the key features of a round shape face, for instance, is obviously just the width versus the height. It's usually very similar in terms of width than it is height. The way to determine though, guys, obviously make sure the hair is back off the face. You know, pull the hair back off the face and get a good look at the client's face shape. So that's something to bear in mind. So now we are into the kind of, we're going to take a look at heart-shaped face right now. Heart-shaped faces are actually very attractive faces. Generally speaking, this I think can be a more attractive face shape than oval, just from a personal perspective. Oval looks great on any hairstyle, but if you look at, like, there's lots of celebrities with heart-shaped faces. They tend to have quite high cheekbones when you've got a heart-shaped face. As I was saying with the, there's not a lot we can kind of do to the chin here, but what we can do is fill in through these bottom corners like I did previously, and I was saying previously about having you know, a chin that tapers down. If we're going to fill this area in with hair or curls or whatever you're going to do, it will start to widen that area on the head, and that will really kind of help to exaggerate the width in that area, whether it goes right down long just like so, or whether it's shorter. You know, filling in this area with hair will certainly decrease, you know, the length in that chin, and that will help immensely. And as I said, they've usually got high cheekbones, so those sweepy fringes, you know, the old gringe, grown out fringe, long bangs or whatever, you know, whatever one people want to call them, you know, they work really nicely on these type of heads as well. Stick a little nose in there, a pair of eyes under there somewhere. She can't see out of this fringe. It's okay, it's fine. She doesn't want to see. So those work really well. So that kind of alters that face shape quite quickly. So if we're filling it out with lots and lots of hair through this side, we're bunching it up with curly blow dries. If you've got a client with straight hair and they've got that kind of hearty, they've got a heart-shaped face with a pointed chin, then you want to kind of recommend something that's messy and lots of texture and shorter layers, so that they get a little bit more volume into their hair. So that's really something to think about with heart-shaped faces. Squarer face shapes, or there's a few different squarer face shapes. We'll talk about the differences in a second. And then we've got our kind of one that no one really talks about face shape right at the end here. So square face shapes, well, there's lots you can do to a square face shape. Obviously it's got corners on it, so they've got a very strong jawline, like a man, you know, a very masculine jawline, wide in the edges there. So that is something to kind of totally bear in mind, that you probably want to do something that brings in those corners a little bit. So you do want some hair maybe on the face to kind of narrow it down, maybe some shaping just from the chin down. So, you know, we do kind of have hair filling in, and then from the chin onwards, a little bit of face shaping just to nip that corner in. And then that will obviously start to push the face into that oval territory that we were discussing as the ideal in terms of, you know, wearable hair shapes. So yeah, just making sure that we're kind of focusing our attentions on having something that just nips off that corner, whether it be like a shag haircut's really good if you've got a square face, just comes in and takes off that, you know, and puts a lot of shape in. You can do like you know, loads and loads of different haircuts. Again, when you've got a square face shape, tons of volume like this, but no width is no good. So we want width in our blow dries if we're going to create, so we want less volume and more width. If we're going to do a blow dry on a square face shape, you want to start kind of pulling that face out that way using volume, so that they haven't got those long elongated lines down the side. So there's something to think about if you're going to use a blow dry to kind of compensate for face shapes, because you know, at the end of the day, not everybody wants a haircut that necessarily suits their face. I know that sounds like a ridiculous statement, but that's the reality, is that, you know, quite often clients want hairstyles that, because they just want that hairstyle, that's that, you know, they're not specifically, they don't always sit down and say, well, what suits my face shape? So it's really important to bear those things in mind, that not every haircut and colour that I see walking down the street in Brighton specifically, technically suits for that individual. But there is something to be said for someone wearing their hair with pride and confidence. It makes all the difference. So really, really be aware of that in terms of, you know, if you've got this information and someone's picking a haircut or colour that's not necessarily going to suit them, because no one suits a crazy colour specifically. I mean, let's be realistic. No one really specifically suits having rainbow hair, but if they're really, really confident about it, you know, those really short Betty Boo, you know, tiny little fringes, no one specifically suits that as such, but they wear it in a way that it's theirs and they own it, you know, and that is probably the most important thing of all, the confidence that it gives the client. So, you know, always add a little bit of sprinkling of, you know, try and get a little bit of their personality across with the haircut, not just going down the kind of technical, well, this is what suits you road. Just as a little example, an oblong face shape. Now the last two are like fairly obscure in terms of what people talk about. Some people might call this a rectangular face. And again, we obviously want to do something in terms of, if we're going to blow dry the hair, we don't want too much height that's then going flat down. We want less volume but more width in terms of volume terms, to pull that face shape out sideways. So that's again very, very similar. And then we want the hair to start feeding in to cut down this corner as much as possible. So we want the hair over the shoulders, trying to slim down that face shape. Fringes on square and oblong face shapes want to be a curved fringe if possible. You know, using a square fringe is only going to cut off the face shape and create another square here. So that's just something to bear in mind. Try and avoid, you know, adding square lines in, even if it's a square fringe that is slightly curved in the corners. That is preferable to a dead square line that's making another square. So just bear that in mind, guys. Try and avoid those square lines. I would always kind of recommend a curved fringe that's kind of following the eyebrows round. Yeah, getting hair onto their face shapes, you know, and if you're going to cut short hair, all these same rules apply. You know, we don't want to have on an oval face shape and a square face shape, we don't want to have really short hair here and really high hair here. We want the hair to come out sideways, a bit like mine's cut, you know, kind of coming out away from the face shape to create width. You know, men tend to have stronger jaw lines anyway, so they're kind of always pushing square, oblong face shapes. So we want those kind of, you know, when you go in too tight, unless you've got good cheekbones and then you've got lots of height, it can start to look like it's all kind of going straight up and down. So you really want to think about that. You know, lots of men also have, you know, oval face shapes, heart face shapes, all those kind of things, but they do tend to have stronger jaw lines. That does impact things slightly. So if you're thinking about this on a man, or you know, putting hair shapes onto a man, it is a slightly different kettle of fish, because obviously you are cutting a harder, more masculine haircut, generally speaking. I mean, I appreciate lots of men have their hair softer these days, but you know, you do want to kind of mirror the geometry of their jaw lines, whereas with women you're wanting to soften these things down. So, you know, width out to the side, the hair doing this, coming round, you know, and mirroring the height at this point on the head is really, really important to what's happening at the top here. So be aware that you want to mirror the height at the corners the same as you do at the top. You don't want it to necessarily, it can be higher there in the middle, that's fine, but you don't want it to be flatter here and bigger there, then it starts to look disproportionate. You don't want flatter at the top and then bigger on the corners. That's where it all goes wrong. So if we're going to balance up an oblong shape, face shape, and we've got longer hair, we can start eating into the corner down at the bottom here, which is a really, really useful thing to do. Slimming in that face shape. We can offer up a fringe that will also kind of start to push the face shape towards oval, and then also we can use like the longer kind of gringy grown out fringes as well to start kind of cutting into that face shape. So height wise, we don't want tons of height, we want more width. We want to kind of cut down the face shape using fringes, and if we can, bring some hair into the corners of the cheeks here. That's how we deal with oblong. And now the final face shape, the one that kind of no one really talks about that much, and it's the pear face shape. This is a face shape that we will see quite a lot. I'm not going to say why, you know why. I don't want to be like that, but it is a face shape that we have to deal with very, very regularly, and it's something that I think is really, really important to be able to deal with well. So obviously there's a lot of width at the jawline, you know, in the cheeks here. So if it's shorter hair, something that's soft and flicky that cuts into that shape nicely, perfect. That's a really good idea. Hair onto the face here is a really, really good idea to start kind of narrowing that face shape. Sweepy fringes really work nicely. Side fringes work really nicely to kind of cut down some of the face shape there and kind of recreate a different structure. You can see already that that starts to look quite different in terms of the appearance of the hair, the face shape that we can kind of visibly see starting to kind of round to ovalize the width, excessive width in the jaw area, the cheek area here. So it's really, really kind of common problem that we come to deal with. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, if we're going to do it slightly differently to that, and we've got kind of longer hair to deal with, and these are the kind of, you know, parameters that we've got. Bobs work really well in this instance as well, with curved fringes to kind of help to, you can actually have any fringe specifically on this face shape, because let's say it's like a square fringe like that, and then we've got a bob. As long as we're kind of cutting into that cheek width, then that works well. But this is what I was saying, slightly rounder works well. If it just drops down in the corners like this, then we're all automatically pushing it towards kind of a more oval face shape very, very quickly. So we're starting to kind of create a more oval appearance by drawing down the fringe in the corners, and then obviously we've got our length through here, which is kind of slimming down those sides. We want to avoid anything that's kind of going to create extra roundness in the face shape as well. That's another thing to kind of really avoid. So we don't want anything that kind of flicks out away from the face shape. That would be really, really not very nice either, because you would be exacerbating the face shape. And look, don't get me wrong, there are rules that you know you can break if you like in certain circumstances, dependent on why the face shape is pear shaped. But we do want to kind of bear in mind that in specific instance of the pear face shape, unless there's, you know, unless you can bring hair down and round onto the face shape, then you can have that kind of flicky hairstyle. But if you can't do that, that flicky hairstyle is just a disaster. It just exaggerates any width in the corner of the face shape. So something to bear in mind for sure. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Life of Hair, and there's been some really useful face shape tips and tricks for you guys to absorb. And if you've got any questions, then do drop them down in the comments section. I would love to hear from you, and have a wonderful week, and I'll see you again really, really soon for another episode of The Life of Hair.